Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Amy. How
Good
are
morning, Pierre.
you? I'm tired.
I know. My coffee. Happy Friday.
Time zones are hard. We had the MVP Summit Community Day yesterday, and we had together a meeting with them earlier in the day, like at a reasonable time. What was that? About 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. For me, it was noon.
11 p.m. Oh,
Hey, we're global.
we are global. We are a global team. And as we always say, if you need to reach us, there's always somebody up.
It might be Pierre.
Yeah, itopstop at theopstop at Microsoft.com, right into our inboxes. So Amy, any plans on retiring?
With the latest updates, I think I should. I mean, I'm getting up there in age. So
No, I have no intention of retiring. I'm on the Pine Box program.
Ooh.
I'll retire when I'm ready to be put in the Pine Box.
Yeah.
I'm not retiring at all. But something really cool happened this week. I got one more subscription to a streaming service just so I could catch the Halo premiere on Paramount Plus. Did you catch it?
I saw the previews for it, and even my son, who's anti-Halo, I know, which is weird as a teen.
Anti-Halo?
Like, yeah, but he was like, whoa. I mean, when he's a little kid, he dressed up as a Halo guy, for Halloween. But yeah,
Master
it looked really
Chief
cool.
rocks.
I need to check it out for sure.
One of my good friends in Montreal is a game journalist. So he's a journalist for a tech journalist, but he concentrates a lot on game and game critiques and game development. He actually has, like, Microsoft gave him at the launch of Halo, he's got the full-size Master Chief statue, the one where he's standing on the rock with like almost like the hero pose. He's got one of those in his basement.
Oh, that's cool.
I've asked him so many times, like, how much he wants for it, and he won't sell it. He won't sell it to me.
That's pretty epic.
Oh, should we get on with the news?
I guess. Let's retire some stuff.
Before we do that, let's look into the chat room. We have Andrew McCallum. We have Jared Shockley. Good morning, gentlemen. And we have some people on Twitch, which I can't tell who their names are right now. And we are, for my first time, we're trying it on LinkedIn Live as well. So
all right.
I'm looking at that one now, and there's one attendee, which is me. It'll take time. But no, for the news, first item is if you are managing an API service, so Azure API Management Zone, you really within the next year, so you've got time. It's one of the reasons we looked at those items this week and figured, okay, let's talk about them, is there's a tendency for, like, when we retired 2008, like for 3 years we were telling people 2008 is going, please upgrade, make sure that this is your first warning, this is your 300th warning, this is your like, we would basically
for real now.
It's for real now, it's coming. And then when we retired it, people went, what? How come you didn't tell us?
You didn't tell me.
So this time we figured, okay, well, let's talk about them. Typically we go over some of those news, but we need to talk about these. So if you are using Azure API management for your environment, if you're an IT pro and you have to manage that, in order to maintain high level of availability, we are changing a little bit the IP addresses of those, and we're making them a lot more redundant in 7 regions by March 31st, 2023. We'll change IP address. So that means that your service might be affected. So as you see here, so in Canada South, Canada Central, Brazil South, Germany West, South Africa North, Korea Central, Central India, and South Central US, your service IP address will change. There is a process for you to go and change your system to the new IP address and your IP configuration. If you don't do it, here's what's going to happen. Your service will still be working. So there's not going to be a downtime the day that it changes. However, you won't be able to create new API, manage the APIs you have. Like, you basically won't be able to do much with the APIs that you have. So it's a really good idea for you to look at this ahead of time and plan your changes, so that's by the time you get to 2023, you're ready and you don't end up with some problems.
Yeah, it's not broken, but it's not working. Sounds kind of.
Well, that's the thing is, we tried the product group. They put in these announcements. But if you're not following their blogs on like an every month, or you might actually get to a point where you miss the announcements. So if you miss the announcements and this is not something you manage every day, you've set it up, you've given your developers access to it, they're deploying their APIs to it, and your workloads are actually actively calling those APIs. For you, it's like your job is pretty much done. Now you just have to maintain it. But now are the developers going to come back and tell you, oh, by the way, I saw this, and then you have to change all of your IP configuration. So it's a good idea to put that on your calendar, make a plan, and start changing it.
Yeah, change control. Yeah.
And all of the details on how to are listed in the blog post on itopstock.com.
Cool. I think sometimes you get an email about it too. Like, I remember getting an email about deprecated things.
Yeah. Well, if you have the service, typically you'll get an email. But I know on my end, I've had these emails before, but I just kind of not avoided them, but kind of like skipped over them, thinking they were marketing, but they weren't.
Yeah.
That'll teach me, right?
Right.
All right. The next news item is for you.
Yes. We're retiring more things. Again, giving that year warning.
What's with March 31st, 2023? It seems to be like a pivotal point in time.
I guess it's a good time to retire.
It's a nexus point, as the
maybe
Marvel universe would say.
So we have some dedicated host SKUs that are retiring. Some, probably very common ones: the DSV3, Type 1, Type 2. So it's good news, though. You're getting newer hardware with the newer SKU. So we just have to, shut down the deprecated hardware. So you're going to have to migrate to the new SKUs before 2023. Because they're pretty much saying, hey, we're going to upgrade. You better get off it, or I don't know. I guess you would be toast. Yeah, I didn't see what the impact would be if you didn't.
Well, I think if you don't migrate, your services are just going to disappear.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, not good.
Because that's one thing that's important to understand when we're looking at the way the Azure Fabric and the hardware in our data centers are set. If it's any machine, like a regular virtual machine, it'll just, when we have to replace a rack or replace a pod or replace like the if you looked at the way the generations of the data center design, we went from racks to like containers, like the pods, and I'm not quite sure. I haven't looked in the last couple of years as to which generation we're in, but the compute modules or pods or whatever you want to call them, there's a like hundreds, if not thousands, of these compute modules inside this container or pod. And if your VM is running there and they're going to retire this because they're switching hardware, the amount of dead hardware has reached the critical mass within the pod and they have to replace it. They don't replace like individual servers, they replace the whole pod. They would just like live migrate everything off of that to others,
right?
Replace the pod and then live migrate it back and you wouldn't even notice. But when you're in this particular case, because they're Azure dedicated host SKUs.
Yeah. Keyword.
Oh, keyword dedicated host. You're the only person on that host. You're the only workload running on that hardware. If we have to replace the hardware, what happens?
You have
and
downtime.
Sometimes because we're changing CPUs, and like in VMware, like you can't go from like Intel to AMD and back and forth like easily.
No. Yeah.
There are ways, but it's not. You basically only get like a subset of the capabilities. I think it's the same on H3.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah. So again, you have a year to put it on your calendar. But yeah, no, I was looking at the list of new capabilities, and it's going to be valuable for people. You mentioned more efficient processors, increase availability of vCPUs and RAM, greater regional capacity, and ability to potentially consolidate your workload on a reduced number of hosts. So if the big hosts.
Cool. And normally, I remember from my customer days, usually when we roll out these new SKUs, we tempt people with lower pricing too. So it's like, hey, use this one instead. It's cheaper. So
you get the first one for free.
All right. All right. First server's free.
Yeah, no, not quite.
No. Yeah.
All right. Looking at that time, we've got lots of time to go. Actually, we're doing really well on time.
Okay.
Next item in our list is template functionality preview in version in Azure Portal will be retired on March 31st, 2025. So if you ever say we didn't warn you in time, I might have to find you and replay this with you.
Right.
Because like that's 3 years. And it's funny because that template functionality preview, so it never that's going to go away, but it's not going away. The functionality, the way it's working is going away, but now it's being replaced by template specs. And template specs allows you to easier to manage your templates in the way that you can share them. Because I ran into some problems with customers when we're having a template and they put those in their Git their Git repository, whichever Git service they use, and then they're using different CI/CD pipelines to deploy their stuff. Maybe they're using PowerShell. Maybe they're using Azure CLI. Excuse me. Well, then you have to manage you start having to manage the certificates for your CI/CD pipeline to actually have access to your private repo. So whenever you have private repos and dealing with CI/CDs and templates, ARM templates, it adds a level of complexity. Now with template specs, you can actually basically store them in your subscription and share them with everyone in your subscription. So if you decide that the way you set up networking with the security groups and the firewalls and all the restrictions and managements and network watcher and everything else that you want to, because in your environment, this is the way you want to manage things. So you can create that one template for VNet. And then you put it in your template specs, and then you can share that. So if a developer wants to, or a developer team wants to set that into into like a dev environment for development purposes or testing purposes, they can use the same template. So you're really like cookie cutter those environments, but
Yeah.
they're always the same because they all come from the same template. So template specs
Golden
will allow
template.
you to do that a lot easier.
Oh, that's great. It looks like they added security too. So it just looks like they improved the product. It's not really, it's going away, the preview, but here's something better for you. So
Yeah.
that sounds awesome, because trying to share was, it was difficult. And then, you have your golden standard, but someone just spins something new up, and you're like, no.
And all of a sudden the standard's not standard anymore.
Wait, as a public IP.
Well, I used to, there was a saying I used to have where somebody would say, well, yeah, but we have build manuals, so all our servers should be built the same. I said, if you give the same build manual to 5 different sysadmins and say, go build me that server, you're going to get 5 slightly different servers.
Probably,
Maybe it's going to be uppercase, lowercase the differences, which in Windows doesn't really matter, but in Linux world matters a lot. Maybe it's going to be where you put the log files versus where you put the like. And as build documentation is never as current as we need it to be.
Right. Well, and there's fights over naming standards. So even in like your VMware environment, if someone used all lowercase and then someone used all uppercase for the VM, people got whacked for that. So
yeah. So by using templates, you avoid this problem, because basically you just go take this and stamp it over here. I use it, and then when I'm done, I delete it.
Right.
So template specs are going to be a great product. And actually, in planning, everybody's interested in planning a Azure Unblogged episode with the PM for template specs, blueprint, and deployment stacks in the very near future. Keep watch in this channel. This is where it'll be published. Oh, and
Jared
also,
just made it. Oops,
sorry.
Jared made me laugh. He said people always end up logging up the C drive, like logging on the C drive if they don't. Yes, they don't add the second drive to your machine.
So you end up with a C drive that's completely full and a D drive that's got nothing on.
And then it crashes because the OS can't run.
But in Azure, you have to be worried. You have to be careful because the D drive is ephemeral.
Oh, yes.
So when your machine shut down that machine, that D drive disappears.
Bye.
So you can put temporary logs or temp files on it, but don't put regular logs that you need to keep. Also, for the template, like I have some templates right now in my template service in Azure, and you can go to the portal and just go to all services and type templates, and you'll see if you have any, they'll be listed there. The product group in the announcement, and you can go on IT Ops Talk and see the, I put the link to, there's a script that the product group has provided that will actually go and grab all of your templates that are saved in your library and actually create template specs versions of them for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Be very careful whenever you download a PowerShell script or any kind of script from the internet.
Ooh.
You test it first in a sandbox before you run it in production. And that goes for even scripts that you get from Microsoft. That's just something you should do all the time. Okay.
Like
public notice announcement over. But that
Uncle Pierre warned you.
I warned you, and I'm going to find you. No, I have a particular set of skills.
And I will find you.
I will find you. Okay. Next item is yours, and it's the final one. N.
Yeah, it's a big one. I mean, you're gonna help me out, right? Because
and it's not a retirement.
Yeah, it's actually added functionality, which is really cool. So we have the Azure load balancer, and now you can make multiple rules on one. So you can do the port forwarding and load balancing. You can use virtual machine sets or just a group of VMs. But what's really cool is you can forward to specific VMs, like maybe for troubleshooting or maybe, I think the coolest thing I thought with it really helped with scale sets, like you're starting to scale back down. I always wondered, like, how do people handle that if traffic's still going and you can just repoint to the other machine in that scale set. So it's supposed to help minimize overhead because now you can do multiple rules on the same load balancer.
So how would that translate in like a day-to-day operation? Like why would you want to do this, or what does it bring? Um,
Well, I mean, you have the added functionality. So, like, whether you're using the NAT that's pointing to the load balancer to just point to different machines, now you can target specific machines on specific ports as well. Um, so, as you see, virtual machines in a backend pool using port 443, and they have different NAT rules on the same load balancer. And then also, you can have one for a single machine, which is, I mean, that's helpful, especially, let's see, why would you want it for a single machine? Oh, for different ports. So you can have the front end port and then, but yeah, the biggest thing I liked was with the scale sets with, you start scaling up or down, you can easily add another rule to include the machine or to scale down and not have someone accidentally go to a VM that's starting to shut down.
Yeah, I read that, and after you explained it to me this morning, I went back and checked. I find it really interesting the way, especially with the new VMSS or virtual machine scale set in flexible mode versus uniform mode. In uniform mode, you get all your machines are exactly the same, and you can't target a specific node of your set. You can change something about the set and all of the set changes. In flexible mode, you can have basically all these machines become individual machines that are managed as a set, but you can target and manage each of them, like with RDP, for example, individually. So having those multiple load balance rules or NAT rules, inbound NAT rules, for let's say your workload's running on the web, so it's port 80. So port 80 will go to the pool over like round robin or number of connections, depending on what your algorithm is. But if you want to RDP into a specific one, because you have that second inbound NAT rule on a specific port, let's say 501 is my first machine, 502 is my second machine, whatever the NAT rule you set. But now you can target these individually. So if you see in the log, for example, you're managing this and you see in the log that one server is always throwing out some exceptions, you can actually go into that particular machine from the outside using the load balancer and check out, or even target that specific machine with your workload to see if you can trigger that fault and then do your troubleshooting that way. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Opens up a lot more flexibility in the way we manage and troubleshoot our machines.
Yeah, definitely. Versus hoping you hit the right one, refresh.
The shotgun approach, like take a shotgun to the side of a barn and hope that you hit the right board.
I remember doing that. Like, hit refresh. Oh, I keep hitting the one that works.
Oh, I thought you meant you remember doing that, like shooting at barns with the shotgun.
Oh, no, I can't talk about that.
Can't talk about that. Well, you are in the US, so that's okay.
Hey, you have a bat.
I do have a bat, and if you're not quiet, I may pull it out.
I know.
And for people that see me every once in a while with the bat in my hands in meetings, this is my fidget spinner. It helps me contain my ADHD.
Which I think on this team, I think we all have it. So.
Oh yeah.
We all.
Oh, absolutely. Before we jump into the module of the week, I just
Mhm.
wanted to mention that I believe, and Jared on the chat can confirm that this week is a fourth night. And if you don't know where your IT guys are, they might, because it's patch and switch week
Oh,
on
nice.
Twitch. Patch
Yeah.
and switch, our illustrious boss, and
Yes, he's very
his
illustrious.
his better half, Mr. Joey Snow. I have this wonderful little podcast on geeking out and just no patch and switch. Oh, okay. I was mistaken. It
Ooh.
is the right week,
Oh,
but
he's sad face.
apparently there is no patch and switch.
Well, next week isn't an MVP summit, and
Well, that started yesterday with the
well, yeah,
pre-day,
pre-day, but then
and
there's more
next
next
week,
week.
yeah, it is. Both are busy. Oh well, we'll just have to figure out
Lies.
something else to do over lunch.
We should take it over. I think we could do it. Playing the role of Rick.
I
I'll
don't
wear a
think
hat.
anybody can do that. Well, I don't have the hair to play the role of Joey.
Okay,
So
I guess I'll
that's
do
not
Joey, and then
okay.
you have the beard for Rick.
That's right, and you do have good hair. All right. So our learn module of the week is considering that everything was a retirement except for one.
So let's focus on the positive.
Let's focus on the one. So we figured that the learn module of the week would be the improve availability or application scalability and resiliency using the Azure load balancer. It's a pretty good and pretty quick learn module. It's only about 45 minutes ish, where you learn how to identify the features that you can use, because learn like you get the internal load balancer, the external load balancer,
Right.
the like they're the routing algorithm, the load balancing algorithm. There's all of these kinds of things that you need to figure it out, which is not that complicated. We've been doing this for decades, setting up load balancers, like hardware load balancers, but this one is virtual in Azure. So you go through it, you figure out all of the features and capabilities, and then you figure out how to deploy it as well. So considering we only had one story about a product that's not retiring,
Improved.
It's improved.
Right. But yeah, it's a good intro, especially if you're not familiar with load balancing, like like F5 way of GTM and LTM, and then this is our version, the Azure load balancer. Yeah, it's great to learn how to use it, whether it's via external or internal.
Yep.
Traffic.
And Jared, in the just wanted to let you know that I wore that shirt for you today, and now there's no show, so I'm gonna have to talk to Rick. He's letting me down.
I know. He's our
messing
boss.
up with my wardrobe schedule.
Sorry, man.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Amy, for jumping in on the last minute, because we decided yesterday that you were going to be my co-pilot.
Yeah. Then you kind of ghosted me. I'm like, well, am I? Like, hello?
Well, yeah, yesterday's a bit of a...
You were doing stuff, a lot of stuff.
I was doing a lot of stuff. Plus, my daughter showed up right after dinner with a stack of papers and said, "Can you help me do my taxes?"
Ooh, that's not a quick.
That's a great way to spend a Thursday night. I'm thinking Picard's on TV. I'm thinking I've got to catch up on the latest the new Halo series, and I'm gonna do
taxes. You should have a tip today. What's that? I'm not.
Oh, testing and production, which is Jared and I's podcast that we have we alternate weeks, typically with Patch and Switch.
Yeah, do that.
And it's just it's our little podcast on streaming gear, presentation skills, tips and tricks on how to set up for like online delivery versus in-person delivery, recording demos versus live demos. We cover like a wide range of subjects, and sometimes we get caught on tangents and we go completely off the rail.
I gotta check that out then. Yeah,
it's on Twitch in the Patch and Switch channel. since they're every 2 weeks, so we basically take the week that they're not there.
Okay.
So,
yeah, because I always go to you for like, hey, my microphone. Oh God, lighting.
I love my new microphone.
I
It's nice and
know.
pretty and white, and
I
it's
have
got
envy.
the
The
lights there.
lights. We need more. Rick.
Well, we talked about it at the last episode. I'm not sure if it's been put up on YouTube yet, but it will be soon. Testing and production. All right. So that being said, again, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Amy, and we will see you next week on another episode of AZ Update. Cheers.
Have a good weekend.
Yep. There you go.